pandemic trapped a bunch of aging role-playing gamers in their homes, forcing them to crawl out of their pen and paper comfort zone and into the online world of virtual tabletops and video calls. So join them as they raise the curtain to share their stories, insights, and love of all things geek. So grab your graying dice bag and get ready for another episode of Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast. This is Matt, your co-host, and today I'm going to be doing an installment called Playing with Myself, where I'll be taking a deep dive into the Twilight 2000 4th edition shift mechanic rules and a look at solo play. So in Twilight 2000, every day is broken into 4 shifts. There's morning shift, day, evening, and night, and each one's around 4 to 6 hours long. During these different shifts, your characters can take any number of actions from traveling, having adventures, combat, but there are a lot of mundane tasks that are related to your survival inside of the world of Twilight 2000 that are conducted on a by-shift basis. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a look at a party of 4 notional characters. One thing you'll notice, I don't have any specialties for these characters. I kind of left that out, tried to keep this simple with just their basic stats and skills. I've chosen a hex on the map. I like this one because it's got some urban areas, it's got water, forest. So it seems like a very varied hex that we could try out some of these different activities. And then around this central box, you can kind of see some of the different activities that you can do during a shift. So from top left around, we'll do, so you sleep, keeping watch, cooking, scrounging, hunting, foraging, making your camp, fishing, resting, or hunting. And so from left to right, we'll take a look at our 4 notional players. So we've got Bob. Bob's pretty strong. He's got a pretty good stamina. And he's got pretty middle to lower road sort of skills. He's definitely more the leader with his empathy and command at B. Next, we've got Ray. Ray's definitely got some good close combat skills. Very smart. So they've got a high intelligence with an A. And a very good technical skill, and they're also medical. We shift over to Alice. So Alice is pretty strong, pretty tough, quick, good with range combat, little good with their recon. So got a good recon skill, and everything else is pretty mediocre with C's and D's across the board. And then Mary, who is quick and has got good range combat, very smart. Pretty perceptive with the recon of B, also medical, but no survival skill. So if you look around here, the group, the highest survival skill in the group is only a C. That's a very key stat when it comes to sort of for many of the shift tasks. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first shift will be the morning, and we're going to start with Ray. Ray's gonna go ahead and establish a camp. So this group has maybe just moved into this hex. They've decided they're kind of low on supplies, or maybe they want to learn more about their surroundings. So the first thing they want to do is establish a camp. And establishing a camp is very important because if you don't succeed at that, when your characters try to sleep, they have to make rolls to see whether they can actually get the full benefit of sleeping or not, and it can also make a big difference in harsh weather as well. To make a camping check, it is intelligence and survival. So if we look here, we see that that's an A and a C. So for those maybe not as familiar with the Twilight 2000 system, these letters coincide with a die type. So the lowest being D, which is a D6, C, which is a D8, B, which is a D10, and A, which is a D12. And to succeed in any task, in this system. Basically, after any modifiers are applied to your roll, you need a 6 or higher as a success. So we see that making a camp is the intelligence and survival. We also have that if you want to make your camp hidden, maybe you want to chop down some brush, or you want to, kind of hide it away so people don't recognize it or see it from afar. You can either make a intelligence and survival and an intelligence and recon. And so for that one, you can see that he's got a intelligence of A and a recon of C, so that gives him a D12 and a D8. And just to establish the tent, he's got the D12 and D6. So that's what he's going to do. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's roll the dice. Okay, so we got a 9 and a 5, and that means that Ray got 1 success. All right, let's go ahead and roll for hiding the camp. All right, an 11 and a 6. That is 3 successes. That is because I think a 10, 11, and 12 each count as like a critical success. So it counts for 2. So he has not only successfully set up the camp, he has screened it with some foliage. It's very difficult to see, and that's going to be good, not attracting any unwanted attention. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is Bob. Bob's got some tackle and fishing line with him, and so he noticed that there was a river nearby, so he is going to set off to do some fishing. So fishing is going to be intelligence and survival. And so for Bob, that's a C and a D, or a D8 and a D6. Water does not provide, presence of like water doesn't provide any bonuses or negatives to fishing, but it is a requirement. So let's go ahead and roll those dice. All right, unfortunately, we get a 4 and a 5. That means no successes for Bob. He's got to basically return to camp empty-handed. Maybe that spot wasn't very good, or made some noise and scared some of the fish away, not sure. But still, that his shift is done. So next we'll go on and we're going to look at Alice. Alice is going to decide to go hunting, again, because food and water are very important for survival. Hunting's a fairly complex system in Twilight 2000. It's 3 different skill rolls that are required, and you have to succeed at all of them. So the first one is you have to track your prey. That is sort of like hunting it down, looking for footprints. That is an intelligence and survival roll. And we see that Alice has a C and a C, or a D8 and a D8. Once you've kind of discovered the presence of or found prey, you actually have to get close enough to be able to take a shot on it. That's actually going to be an intelligence and recon. And here we have Alice has a C intelligence and a recon of B, or a D8 and a D10. So she is very good at sneaking up on things. And once you've sneaked up on something, it's still not done yet. You've still got to shoot it and kill it. To kill the prey, you have to make a ranged combat attack. That's agility and range combat. Luckily, Alice has got a 10 and a 10 for that, or B and a B. And it also stipulates you have to do enough damage, right? So if you find a really big, something like a moose or something, and you've got nothing but a small, something like a little homemade spear, you still may not kill it. Even if you hit it, you might wound it, and the GM might make you have to do additional sort of tracking and approaching and things to chase that animal down once it's been wounded. All right, so let's go ahead, and we're going to start with the hunting phase. All right, so we get a +1 bump for the die. That actually means, because they're in the woods, that actually means that she'll be rolling a D10 and a D8, and got a 9 and a 4. So that is a 1 success. And we checked on the table for like animals. You roll which one you find, and we found that it was a rabbit. All right, so now we've got to approach the prey. All right, so we get a 10 and a 3. Because it's a 10, it's 2 successes. So Alice very quietly approaches this unsuspecting rabbit, and she's got it all lined up. And with her hunting rifle or bow, she's going to go ahead and try to bring that rabbit down. And with 2 6s, it's 2 successes. And so that particular rabbit is worth 1 unit of raw food. Basically, each player's character will need to consume 1 unit of food or 1 unit of water and 1 unit of water per day. So she can return back to camp with a fresh kill. And next we're going to go over to Mary. All right, so Mary doesn't have any survival skill. Camp's already set up, and everybody was kind of out doing their thing, hunting or fishing. And so Mary's got a good recon, though, and good intelligence. So she decided that she would stand guard to make sure that nobody stumbles in on the camp unannounced. So one thing I won't be covering in this is encounters. I'm planning to do that in another session. So in normal gameplay, you could or sometimes would roll for an encounter, chance of an encounter each shift. So I am not doing that for this. But we're still having one of the players stand guard. All right. Let's see how she does. Unfortunately, a 5 and a 3 means no successes. As a GM, you could decide, if you're playing with a GM and multiple players, you could decide whether this is a role that you let the players make or one that the GM makes in secret. With solo play, of course, you're going to know whether your person that you've sent up on sentry duty succeeded or not. All right, so that's everybody's turn for the morning shift. And so what we're going to do is kind of look at a synopsis of that shift. So Ray, his task was making the camp, which was successful. Bob went fishing and had no successes. Alice went hunting and came back with, 2 units of raw food. I had down for 1, but it's 2 units. And Mary was standing watch and did not succeed. So over on the right here, we sort of have the different kinds of things that your party can find either through these tasks. So there's raw food, wild food. They can have cooked food, water, which you really could break down to purified water, unpurified water, that sort of thing as well, which might be important if you're playing, looking very realistic at, shouldn't be going out and drinking any water source that you find. You can also find parts, and then stuff is if you're scrounging, you might find actual useful or semi-useful items as you're running around in the apocalypse. All right, so they've got a little bit of food, but that's not really going to feed this group. So we're going to move on to the next shift. So now we're in the day shift, and we're starting again with, we're going to start with Ray. Ray's figuring, well, I don't need to, I'm not going to set up the camp. And so let me just go down by that river that where they were fishing before, and let me see if I can get some water. Right. And so that is an intelligence and survival roll. So Ray has an A in intelligence, which is nice, gives him a D12, and a survival of only D with a D6. So, and this is basically foraging, right? So the skill is foraging. So for foraging, with a success in foraging, you can get, for every success you get 1 unit of sort of raw, not really raw, but wild food. Or 1 unit of water. And another thing about shifts and the different players, and one thing you'll notice is that, so inside of one group, you can only do 1 task in 1 hex per shift, right? So you can only forage in this particular hex once per shift, and only 1 person can do it. Now you can have another person who aids them, and that person gives them, by aiding them, they get a bump and a die. And that's just sort of an automatic mechanic. But you can't have like 2 people foraging in 1 hex in 1 shift. So you have to be sort of strategic about who's good at what is this hex good for? Do we want to risk sending somebody into another hex by themselves, where it's also very possible there could be an encounter? So picking and choosing what you're going to do each shift and who's going to do it is pretty important. All right, so let's take a look and see how Ray does. All right, so a 6 and a 2 is 1 success. So Ray is able to haul up, fill up some canteens or some bottles, and bring back to camp 1 unit of water. All right, let's move on to Bob. So Bob's a bit stubborn. He knows he's a good fisherman. He's not sure why he didn't catch anything, and maybe it was the wrong lure. But he wants to go on a revenge tour back down to the river. He knows Ray's heading down there to collect some water. So he heads on down and sets himself up, and he has got a D8 and a D6. So let's see how Ray does a second time. A 6 and a 4. So we got 1 success. So he catches himself a fish, or at least whatever 1 unit of raw food. And so he's quite happy that he can this time return back with something to add to the camp. So we're going to move on to Alice. So Alice is going to go hunting again. Successful the first time, and she figures, well, look, Bob didn't catch any fish. Maybe he won't catch any fish this time. So she's going to go back hunting again. Remember, this is that 3-step process. So let's go ahead and see how the hunting. She's going to track the prey. Getting the 1 bump, and from the woods, it's still just a 2 and a 1. No successes. So Alice goes out in the woods, and she can find no tracks, no evidence of any animals, nothing there. So she kind of comes back empty-handed. And we go to Mary. Mary's going to continue to stand guard. This is basically a function still not wanting to have their camp overrun or have someone come in and take whatever supplies that they've got. So again, she's got very good recon and very good intelligence, so it's a good combination. Let's take a look how she does this time. All right, a 7 and a 1, 1 success. So in this particular case, if we were using the encounters and there actually was an encounter, that would give a bonus basically for Mary being able to detect them prior to them just maybe stumbling in on the camp and having the actual element of surprise. All right, that kind of wraps up the day shift. Let's take a look. Ray went foraging and had a success. He got a unit of water. Bob went fishing and got a success, and so he picked up a unit of food. Alice, unfortunately, couldn't find any animals, so no successes in hunting. And Mary successfully was able to focus and do a really good job keeping watch. Our total now looks like they've got 3 raw food and 1 water. All right. So now we're going to move into the evening shift. Ray, realizing that they're still pretty short on water, is going to go back down and see if he can collect some more. So he's going to go and forage again with the option to look for water. So let's see how he does. All right, a 10 and a 2, but the 10 is 2 successes, so he comes back with 2 units of water. He's quite happy about that. All right. Let's go down to the next. So we're looking at Bob. Bob's pretty happy. He caught a fish. We've got some other game. We've got the rabbit. So Bob decides that before this stuff goes bad, he wants to cook it. Bob's got an intel of gives him a C, which gives him a D8, and only a survival of D. So he's maybe gone, done a little bit of fishing, cleaned a few fish. Maybe he hasn't really hunted wild game like rabbit before, but he's got some experience. So let's see how Bob does in cooking up this food. 2 and a 4, no successes. So this is an interesting mechanic in Twilight 2000. So even when you fail cooking, you still end up with units of cooked food. And here's where sort of, if you're doing traditional play with the GM and players, this is almost one of those ones where should the GM make this roll in secret, because the players may not, if they know that the food is not good, may not eat it, whereas if they don't know it's not good, most of us don't often know, oh no, this wasn't prepared correctly. So the units still count as cooked food, but eating it requires a stamina roll to avoid getting food poisoning. So I'm not quite sure what Bob did. Maybe he didn't dress the rabbit correctly. Maybe the meat got contaminated when he was butchering it. But the party unknowingly is sitting on 3 tainted units of cooked food. That could be potentially very bad. So Alice wants to go ahead and give another try at hunting. Maybe something's going to come out in the evening that she feels that she can hunt. So we're going to go through that process again. She was pretty lucky in the morning, but in the day didn't have quite as much luck. So she is going to go ahead and try to track something. So let's see how that goes. All right, with the 1 bump from the woods to get an 8 and a 6. So 2 successes and a roll on the random animal table they've got there comes up with a deer. So this is a big find. Spots a deer in the evening, having a meal, chewing on some bushes or something. If she can bring this down, this could really feed the group, be a big success. So now that she's found the deer, she's got to approach it quietly. So let's see if she's got a pretty good recon with that D8 and D10. Unfortunately, with a 2 and a 3, even with the bump from the woods, it's no successes. As Alice draws close to the deer, she steps on a dry twig, and just that's enough noise to send the deer careening away into the dark, getting dark woods, and not to be seen again. To Mary. All right, so Mary's been pulling guard all day, and even though she hasn't been out trumping around through the woods, hauling water, hunting, she has been patrolling the area, keeping an eye out. She's pretty tired, so knows that everyone else has sort of been, working. Haven't seen anything all day. She decides to go ahead and sleep. That way that she is able to be fresh, potentially if they need someone to stand guard at night. So they take that. So if you take a sleep, there's a few other things that happen, like you can recover fatigue and heal. But what's important is also, just like every character needs 1 unit of water, 1 unit of food, every character needs 1 shift of sleep per day, or they can start becoming fatigued. All right, so that wraps up the evening shift. Ray foraged successfully for 2 units of water. Bob cooked, had no successes, but over here we show that they do have 3 units of cooked food. Alice scared off the deer, so no successes hunting, and Mary slept. So now we will start into the evening shift, or the night shift. Knowing they're still a little short, and that the water's not too far away, Ray is going to forage 1 more time to try to get some water, to make sure that the entire group is able to get their water for the day. Let's see how he does. All right, a 9 and a 1. So 1 success gives him 1 unit of water. So he is able to bring that back to camp. And we will go over to Bob. Bob is, he's thinking pull up some night worms, go out and see if he can catch some fish at night. He is determined to get just a little more food for the group. He knows that they're a little short even after what he's cooked. Of course, he's not aware that he did not cook that food safely, but he still knows he doesn't have enough. So let's see how he succeeds at night fishing. Comes up empty. Night fishing is just not as easy as he saw it on TV. So he returns to camp tired and empty-handed. Alice Alice is again going to try to go out and find some sort of animal running at night. There's a lot of pressure for them to get some supplies. They've had a very unfortunate and unlucky day. So they're just going to go back out and try again. So let's take a look at tracking the prey. All right, with the bump, 8 and a 4, a success, a fox. So she spots a fox, or the evidence of a fox that must be out there, maybe hunting mice or something in the night. And so now she's going to try to approach the fox. Let's see how she does. A 9 and a 5 is a success. So Alice is able to quietly position herself in such a way that she has a shot at this fox. All right, she's going to take aim. An 11 and a 7, 3 successes. So shoots it dead on, and that fox will yield 2 units of raw food. So as Bob is sort of trudging back in with an empty pail and no fish, Alice is, quite happy coming in with this fresh kill of the fox. All right, and Mary, who hasn't had maybe the most exciting day, after being refreshed, is able to stand guard for the nighttime to ensure that nobody sneaks up on anybody else. Although really nobody else in the group was sleeping for the whole night. Let's see how she does. 4 and a 2, no successes. So again, Mary is, even with the rest, is just sort of maybe doesn't have great night sight or gets distracted or is not paying attention, but not their best sentry. If there was some sort of wild animal or some people lurking around at night, they might very well have been able to get a drop on the group. All right, so that is an entire day, all 4 shifts. First, we'll take a look at the night shift. So Ray had 1 success in foraging for water. Bob did not succeed at night fishing. Alice was successful and was able to bring in some more raw food. And Mary was not very observant on guard duty. So for the entire day, what we're showing here is they've got 2 raw food. So they have 2 raw food at the end of the day. There were 3 cooked food, and I've subtracted 3 from that because 3 people ate. We're not really sure who decided to pass up on eating, but they all ate and would have to make their stamina rolls. They were able to collect 4 water, and all 4 of them drank, so they end the day with basically a net of 0. So kind of rough day for the group. All the survivors got their 1 unit of water intake for the day. 1 survivor is going to be hungry. And the other 3 are going to have to make stamina rolls for eating poorly prepared food. This could end up with a very sick group of characters that could be very dangerous in the apocalypse. The group does have a surplus of 2 raw food, and they have a good camp. One nice thing is once you have your camp established, you don't have to establish it every day. So that would free up 1 action during a shift. Failed to stand night guard could lead to an unfortunate encounter, and 3 of the survivors did not sleep, so they will be fatigued in the morning. So it is clear to see in the Twilight 2000 rules that if you're looking for kind of a sort of a hardcore survival experience, you could roll really well on the dice, and they could have come ahead with a bunch of food, a bunch of water. Maybe they could have had the luxury to go out and try to do some scrounging for parts or useful equipment. But it doesn't take but a few fails to really set the balance where you're in the negative, where people are going to start getting hungry, they're going to be thirsty, and that decision of, do I just push on and try to find more food, or do I take rest? You're really looking at an economy of, do I want to be hungry in the morning? Do I want to be tired in the morning or thirsty? And so throw in the added, potential to fail at cooking and potentially poison yourself and your party. This can be a pretty rough system. But the system lends itself to solo play. This whole sort of hex crawl system and this sort of shift mechanic really lends itself to being able to play out a scenario or even, a sort of a mini campaign all on your own, much easier than maybe trying to play a more traditional role-playing game where, a lot of complex, character stuff. And that's really going to sort of be the next thing that we're talking about.
This concludes part 1. In part 2, we'll take a look at solo encounters.